There wasn't any in there, but he had to start, well, what kind are y'all looking for? And he starts like, deal with that. Not the time. And that guy looked at it and said, look, we ain't got no time. I said, y'all search the thing. He's just, he's trying to be funny, but it ain't the time.
Right. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't just to be honest. We went through the TSA the other day, a couple weeks ago, actually, about a week or two ago. Stephanie checked the wrong bag. Her carry-on was the one that's supposed to check, and everything was bathroom product. They threw everything they had away. I mean, toothpaste, you name it, they threw it all.
Yeah, one of the girls at work was talking about that she had brushed her teeth in the airport and had opened the toothpaste, and because the toothpaste was open, they made it throw it away.
Can you turn the air on in your office?
Sure. Unfortunately, that means you have to check the rest of them. That was cool, thing, brother.
It's pretty dark. They're all bummed after them being out of the building for 2 days, and then Friday, and off for 2 days. But that was off.
Are they still calling for that storm first next week?
I think it's gonna be too warm.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be raining.
I don't know, last I heard it was like, waiting for it, to call it.
Until Easter gets here, everything, this is, no.
Who knows?
Anything past 3 days, just gets.
Right.
Who knows?
How you doing, sir?
Been here about a minute and a half, and I haven't made anybody mad yet.
Give it time.
Yeah.
We're not official yet.
Yeah, it wasn't time.
We just want to share it. Three of them, they're real lawyers and do insurance and LLCs. Two of them,
February.
March.
Real life.
Forward for them making Tipton, whatever it is. Yeah. Tipton.
Which way you going?
Yeah. It's just a long, straight run.
3.5 hours.
But it's really good. Here in the school.
Over there.
That's what I'm thinking, but they're both turned to air.
It's like morning and morning.
Plans on?
It's like morning and morning.
Well, I can get up there all day. Take me.
One call, that's all.
Cut it off.
Well, people do the work, the fence is by the hour.
Cut this one off.
I think we're glad to see y'all advertise on late night TV.
Should have listened to that guy that was gonna tell me how to get rich quick by buying real estate when I had no money.
Yeah.
You could use government money, right, whether it's never government somehow.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
I remember all that, I'm saying, yeah.
It sounds too good to be true.
And it's,
Probably it is.
that's right. That's what I was always told.
UGA.
Never come through today.
Oh, okay. They must have tried to tell them that now.
Yep.
Father Brown was a pastor. They got a fellow that was, he was a pastor at church in Portland for a lot of years. He's now not serving a particular church, but he works for kind of government affairs kind of things.
Now that y'all made it, we'll begin. Welcome everybody to the Madison County Board of Commissioners regular business meeting, January 27, 2025 at 6 p.m. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gentlemen, before you have a copy of the minutes from December 30th, 2024 regular business meeting, minutes from January 6th, agenda setting work session, and minutes from January 16th, 2025 special call meeting. Please take a moment to look over those. If you see no discrepancies, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Second by Commissioner motion by Commissioner Chandler, second by Commissioner Doster.
Sure.
Any discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
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 Dozens of involving guest groups and multiple visitors, UGA Extension Quarterly Report, Mr. Travis, thank you.
You had a new cover letter.
Yeah, I noticed
A
that.
new cover
We
sheet.
do, well, that was for last quarter, so technically it'll be right, the next one will be changed, and that is what I'm here to, introduce to you, our new 4-H agent, Miss Michaela Brown. And I'll let her come up and she can, tell a little bit about herself, and if y'all have any burning questions real quick, I'm sure she'll be glad to answer. We'll put her on the spot.
Good evening. I'm Michaela Brown. I am a 4-H agent. I'm so super excited to be in Madison County. I was originally born and raised in Elbert County, but my mom was born and raised in Madison County, so I still have a whole lot of family here. So I feel like I'm coming back home just a little bit. I was a 4-H'er my entire life, so I believe green, as they like to say it. So I'm super excited about getting the program really just energized again, and the kids excited about it, and growing the numbers of the program.
Do you consider your area of expertise?
So my area growing up in 4-H was healthy living. So I did a lot of the food nutritional side of things and all of that. So we actually have some kids already loving food labs and everything. So hoping to hone in on their interest a little bit more with that. Yeah.
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you, and I'm here for y'all anytime y'all need me, so just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Travis, you have anything else, sir?
I'm just excited that she's here.
I got you some help. So are you fully staffed now, you guys?
We are fully staffed.
Awesome, thank you.
All agent positions are full, so we are hitting on all cylinders.
All right. Moving on, ethos preservation. Presentation for historic courthouse, Rebecca Finley.
Good evening.
How are you?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Yes, Rebecca Fenwick with Ethos Preservation. We're a historic preservation planning company out of Savannah. We do historic consulting work, all kinds of projects, historic tax credit consulting, design guidelines, grant writing, visioning, and historic structures reports like you have before you this evening. So early last year, we engaged with you guys to undertake this project, knowing that you were looking to reuse the building and had, an interest to keep preservation at the heart of your decision-making as you think about the future and what you want to do. So a historic structures report is a really great place to start because it's gathering a lot of data and information that you now have at your fingertips about the condition of the building, its history, what things need to be prioritized, and then how to address concerns with preservation best practice in mind. So all of that is outlined. It is a lengthy document. We had a wonderful team. So with me this evening is architect Joe Smith out of Athens, where his firm Architectural Collaborative is, and he is an excellent preservation architect. So I really felt like we had a super strong team to put this together. Also, Ensemble, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing consultant, and Reed Sheets from Sheet Structural Consulting also did an assessment that is included in the document. And then CAD Scans did a formal scan of the building, so there's some really great imagery, including a virtual walkthrough that is accessible to you. So I wanted really just to say, thank you for bringing us onto the job and letting us be a part of it. Doing historic structures reports is fun because you can really get to dive in deep on one place and learn everything that you can about it. And the building is an amazing resource. I mean, I'm still in awe of it. I mean, the story of Galaki and its architecture, but also all of the interesting things that happen there. I did not quite realize the impact of the trial of the men who murdered Lemuel Penn, and the whole story surrounding that case and its impact even on the 14th Amendment and the provisions involved in that amendment, and that impacts everyone. So it's interesting to get to learn all of that and document it for you, so now you have a concise history. And speaking specifically about the history, there's a lot of grant dollars available now through the National Park Service and other organizations, and included in the document are a list of grants for you to consider. So there's some real money out there specific to the civil rights history related to the building and that sort of thing that certainly important to consider, especially knowing that this document ought to be really a springboard for you all, that you've done it, you've now taken the first step to think about the future of the building, and we would love to chat more with you about next steps and if there's additional advice that we can provide as you kind of consider all the recommendations and findings that are included in the document. Please know that we want you to call on us to provide clarity and guidance if useful. Really would love to just invite questions too, and if you all had any specific things you wanted to discuss about the building or the report itself, we are here.
So this is the historic structure report, and it is on the county website under public announcements or quick links tab. Lacey and I worked a lot with Rebecca and the lady that worked with you.
Oh, Kirsten Connor?
Yes, Kirsten. Yes, we worked a lot with them, and I will say they were really easy to work with. There's a lot of history that we found through research, team efforts, and it is a very thorough document, and they've done a really good job. They've really broken down every little nook and cranny on what needs to be done, what was done. So I do want to tell you thank you that you were very easy to work with, and that's appreciative on my end.
So where do we go from here with that?
Yeah.
What is our next step?
Yep. So I think, you now have like a comprehensive guide to get you started. And I think that if you can decide on a program, so the end use of the building, kind of be moving in that direction and hone in on that, then you have the confidence to begin construction documents. So engaging an architect to jump off of this document, you know, a lot of information is already here, you know, even base level drawings, to build off of that and complete a full construction document set for a rehab of the building, then you're going to have a really solid sense of cost and that sort of thing. There is a cost estimate that's included in this document. It's really just to give you kind of a 360-degree view, you know, just based on our findings now, but that's going to get you even closer to a solid number, having the construction documents. And, you know, that kind of documentation is really great as an attachment to a grant application, you know, to show, I mean, this also would be a supporting document, but construction documents for renovation is really the next logical step. The other thing I would point out too, one of the major findings was related to the structure, right? So the structural engineer has some very specific comments, and there's even additional exploration that he was recommending. And I think that would be part of undertaking a solid set of construction documents, is some significant structural examination specific to the north tower. So, you know, the main tower is actually leaning. So definitely ironing out the needs of the building's structural systems is key.
Is there any, you spoke about the grant funding a minute ago. Do you all have on staff or work with particular grant writers in this field that we could potentially reach out to, or do we?
Yeah, I mean, so fortunately, I mean, we have had some good success at Ethos with grant writing specific to, you know, historic preservation related grants, which honestly, that's the best avenue outside of going to like a private foundation or like a Georgia Power or something like that. We're really in tune with those public dollars and the ones specific to historic and cultural resources. So yeah, I would love to chat more with you about that. The major ones that are included in the recommendation list, they're about $750,000, will come around again in the fall. So, however, I say that and it's like, okay, yeah, we've got time. But there's always things that you can be doing to kind of get ready and also just have all your ducks in a row so that that application is super strong because they are very competitive.
That's good timing though, because it takes 3 to 4 months to write a good grant.
Sure.
And if we've already got the skeleton, I guess, the foundation.
Yeah.
That's probably where our first avenue will go, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and I think if you could pair that, you know, maybe when you think about, I guess it would be next year's budget at this point, but if there's like what you could pair financially with, you know, from the county side to sweeten like a grant reviewer reading that, okay, well, what skin do they have in the game? You know, be thinking about other funding sources to kind of get you to a solid starting point.
In the grants that you've seen most recently, were they 70-30s, 60-40s?
Well, so there are grants that are like that where it's like a cost share, but usually those are for planning work. So in the past, I think it might have been a bit different with the State Historic Preservation Office, but a lot of, you know, their dollars end up funding things like historic structures reports and resource surveys and things like that, where the community will pay 40% and they'll cover 60%. But the Park Service dollars that I'm referencing tonight are bricks and mortar, you know, so you could shave off the $50,000 perhaps for administrative costs. There's going to need to be an update to the National Register nomination. That's like hand in hand for getting the money. It's just a required thing you have to do, so that will cost something. But they also acknowledge that you can pay for that with the grant dollars. So it could be that you're looking at more like $700,000 for bricks and mortar work. However, you really can't undertake that work until you have those construction documents, which is why I was like, if you're thinking about something in the short term, in the immediate term, that's really the next step. But you know, you'd want to just chart a timeline, right? Think about like the next 2 years, what does that look like, based on grant application due dates and things like that, which we'd be happy to work with you on that.
Is there any one thing that stuck out as an emergency need that the building may need? And the reason I asked that was obviously about 5 years ago, there was an emergency need for a roof because it was leaking so bad and it was causing some interior damage. But now that that part has been taken care of, do you see another need that we may have not have seen through y'all's scans?
Yeah, so one thing, and Joe, feel free to chime in, but the trees, the new magnolia trees that are planted at the corners, they're very close to the building.
Yeah.
So I think if you, as soon as you could move those, even just away, like on the outside of the path there, I think that's going to be the best thing to do, because the root system, I mean, you just don't want to have this degrading your building and the foundation and that sort of thing. They're lovely.
Yeah.
They're just too close.
I think the tower is probably the highest priority, because it turns out in our investigation and looking at it that the upper sections of the brick were actually built on top of wood rather than brick on brick. So as this thing stacks up, it's brick to wood, to brick to wood to brick. And because there has been some termite activity up in the attic, some of that wood is degraded. It's also just not a good idea to have brick on wood. And so that tower is settling in ways that you don't want to. There are some cracks that are opening up. That's where I would start. Ultimately, the roofing work that you did do is the salvation of the building, because the level of water damage on the interior is extensive because of past roof leaks. And that is one thing that you don't have to do. But there are other condition issues on the walls of the building, bricks with missing mortar joints, soiling, but also the cornices that wrap the building have, if you really look at it, you can see that they all sort of sag, and it leads to problems with drainage, because the gutters at the roof line they're not level, so water ponds in there, and then that potentially can flow to the inside. So there's a sort of scope of exterior work and structural stabilization work that I think is probably your first priority. And if you look at the budget for the whole package, the grant amount that Rebecca was talking about is a fraction of that. And so you ultimately, I think, do need to prioritize and sort of set up a phased approach to, we're going to attack this. We always recommend that whatever is on the outside of the building that potentially lets water into the inside of the building is the thing that you need to do first. Because it makes no sense to restore the interior of the building and then have it leak. So that's where I would recommend you start, and defining what that scope is and having drawings that show what that scope should be, so that that can be priced by contractors or who can get accurate pricing. That's I think the first hurdle to get over to the and also those drawings can be used as part of the grant application. It cements the fact that the county knows what it's doing, it knows what it's trying to get out of this project, and that's a good use of the resources of the grant and the money that you bring to the table as well. So you really want to demonstrate that you've kind of done your due diligence and that you're serious about it. So, and I think that's where you start.
Yeah, and a construction document set, I mean, speaking specifically to the phasing, I mean, I think that's super important, right? I mean, just to getting this done, I mean, it will have to be done in phases. I mean, there's probably just no question. So it could even be that the first engagement for the next step is like just a agreement with an architect to just do the phase one drawings, if you don't want to bite it all off at once. And also just what you could maybe afford in the short term, right? If there's some sort of investment threshold or something like that, so.
It sounds like our first job would be to define what our end game is.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, exterior stabilization work, I think you could undertake without having a full program, but it certainly is always best because there's just so many code implications, right? If you have a different end use, like if you wanted to take a different commercial route and you were going to have tenants or something like that as opposed to just government or community functions, I mean, there's going to be implications, right, just on how the building.
What we're trying to get past is just the patching things up until we can figure this out, which is what has been done for decades. So we can, and obviously we have some things like any kind of water issues, but first to define where the end game, what the use for that building is.
Yeah.
And then with that plan in mind, consult with the architect to give us the construction plans that we need, and then start looking for grant opportunities at that point.
Yeah, well, and come up with maybe a projected complete funding strategy, right? I mean, as Joe mentioned, we're talking some, multi-million-dollar projects, so, thinking about what's gonna supplement even those grant dollars, but, it is, the grants that I am referencing are something that seemingly are active right now. I mean, they have been going on for about 4 or 5 years. This administration, we hope, is going to continue to maintain them. So, you want to kind of strike while the iron's hot a bit too, while these programs exist. So, kind of putting all of that together to make it work.
What's the award time frame? Like if the applications are due in the fall, are they turn around fairly quickly, or is it
About 6 months
6
before they respond? And then, it's going to be a few months even after that before you can spend the first dollar. But, yeah, you usually know about within 6 months.
Well, I read through, I enjoyed the reading, enjoyed the work, I think you did a good job on touching all the points, at least I had it. In noting the kind of the must-haves, what needs to be done now, the exteriors, some of the structural components and whatnot, that's kind of the way I was thinking about it, is what do we need to fix first.
Mm-hmm.
And having a team on board then, we could probably run a parallel course of that functionality interiorly, so if there's a change, I'm not saying we're going to kick in a new door and those kind of things, but, to me, they kind of blend together, so as functionality comes together, then, some adjustments, some chases, those kind of things you can plan for and not double dip, at a later date, but also come up with that functionality and then start planning that. One of the particular questions I had is the estimate kind of all encompassing. Mm-hmm. Is it easy enough way y'all have it broke out of the information, the data y'all have, that y'all can provide kind of that first blush, first step, mm-hmm. first estimate of?
I think if we define roughly what that scope was going to be, say exterior envelope stuff, I would need to go back to the cost estimator to have them divvy up those numbers a little bit, because Derek, I think you saw that it's broken down by section. So some of the stuff is mixed up, interior, exterior. So but it is certainly possible to come up with a ballpark for that.
I think that would be key, at least for, I don't know about the rest of the board, but for me, just kind of seeing that. The big number is a big number, I get it, but kind of what's that first milestone that we need to be hitting.
And one thing I'll add too, it's a little bit in the weeds, but I think it's relevant here, is the accessibility need for the second floor of the courthouse is a difficult nut to crack. And I say that if you, in the report, we actually sort of went through a little bit of a design exercise as to where an elevator would potentially fit. And it's because of the peculiarities of the way that the judge's bench, that dais, is raised, it effectively cuts the back of the building off from the front of the building in terms of accessibility. And so either you have 2 elevators in the building, which I don't think you want to do, or you put one in the front, is where we think it ought to go. And one of those corner offices is the best we could think of as to where that elevator would go, because it has the least impact on the exterior of the building, and even though it's pretty invasive, it still has the least impact on the inside of the building. But you still have to figure out a way to get from the front of the building to the back on the second floor, and that requires some alterations as well. So we sort of gamed that out, but that's not the only solution, but it's one solution. But do know that as part of this, as a public use on that second floor, that I think it does need to be part of the program to add that elevator to have second floor accessibility, and then to make the modifications that are necessary to get the full access to the whole floor. But you're fighting the building in a little bit of a way, but it is sort of, not to say it is what it is, but it is what it is.
But if we look at the big picture, we can incorporate the structural issues that the building is being compromised with right now. We could incorporate the elevator tower inside the building, because we want to keep it looking the way it is, number one, for the historical significance of it. I mean, they have rules that we have to play by too.
Right. It's a perfect time to do it. If you're going to be doing supplementation implementation to the attic trusses, which is one of the recommendations of the structural engineer, then making the holes in the floor and doing that framing work at the same time makes perfect sense because you have similar trades on the job at the same time. So planning for that, and even if that elevator is not going to go in, but you're doing the structural work, at least making those openings so that you're prepped for that elevator shaft way to go in is the right approach. And that, I mean, ultimately, it's part of a longer conversation that you would have with an architect about sort of what should be in and what should be out, what's reasonably sort of put into the bag of things that need to get done now versus things that you can put off. And it's both your input and sort of the professional opinion of the architect as to what that should be. But ultimately, you as the commission will need to define what that scope is going to be.
You as an engineer, the first phase that we've been discussing, round numbers, what projected cost roughly?
In terms of construction budget or design fees for that?
Total.
Both. There's a significant amount of repointing on the, actually, if the back of the report is this document, which is a relatively brief budget estimate. I was looking at it earlier because I knew you were going to ask the question about phasing and about budgeting. The first, the masonry restoration scope in there, which is calculated at about $403,000, that is definitely part of that first phase. There's some additional steelwork, some supplementation of some openings that are starting to sag and fail. There's a significant amount of cornice and structural work associated with repairs of the cornices. My guess is that you're looking at something that's approaching $1 million for that envelope work. And it's hard to say exactly what's in and what's out until I can sort of break it up more, but I think that's a reasonable magnitude of what you should expect for that kind of
Thank you.
Gosh, you're welcome. And I told Christina.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
Oh, no.
On that line of thinking, though, the grant money, like the $750,000, in your experience, or historically, are those the kind of things that they're looking for, or are they looking more for the showy stuff? You can open the door and be finished with it. Are we building
Yeah,
the guts
sure.
first, and then the pretty stuff comes? Or is it kind of?
No, they don't. It doesn't need to be like turnkey. They really want to see just a strong application. So like obviously the historical significance, that needs to be like a checkbox, which I actually have already had a conversation with Park Service Grant Coordinator and the state office about the significance specific to civil rights history, because that's really what's getting you those grant dollars, and everyone just kind of agreed on the slam dunk there. So I felt good about that. But yeah, just having the clear program and scope. Yeah, I mean, they want to see that in your narrative, that, it's not vague, and that it's achievable, and will actually, I mean, it will have, without question, their dollars would have an impact. So interestingly enough, too, there's actually been multiple sites in Georgia that have gotten more than one of these grants. So that's encouraging. Makes a prolonged timeline, but something to think about too. So I started to say this is Christina's copy, the drawing. So if anyone wanted to look at the physical set before they leave this evening, and I'll leave my card too.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Y'all are welcome to stay. We got 3 more hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good job, y'all. And I know there's been a lot of hard work put in this, and thank Christina for overseeing this from at least my office standpoint up there. Good job. Moving into the chairman's report, I'll make this brief. First off, I'd like to thank our volunteer fire departments, our EMS, sheriff's office, and our school system during this weather inhibited time that we had last week. I think everyone has done a great job of coordinating our time of closure and the school closures and the school bus drivers. You know, Dr. Goodrow and myself, along with EMA director and the sheriff, was all on a group text, probably 8 or 10 times a day, trying to coordinate each day's plan and what we were going to do the next day to keep the public safe. Unfortunately, we did have a lot of accidents, no matter how much we stress the importance of black ice. They still, I think the second day was the worst because they give a lot of people false hope, because some roads was very, very dry and they would get back up to speed and then they'd go into a shady curve and crash. So that did take place. But anyway, good job to those departments and offices that helped facilitate those couple of days. Just a special note, House Bill 581 public hearing dates is January 31st at 9 a.m., February 11th at 6 p.m., and February 24th at 5 p.m. And just for the record, people's been asking why we're doing it so early. It was an inconvenience because not everybody works first shift. So we done a 9 a.m. for the people that work second shift and third shift to be able to attend those public hearings also. There was only one requirement by the state, and that was to hold one at 6 p.m. The other two could be random at our discretion, and we felt to best serve the public, we would break those times out accordingly. Word today from Northeast Georgia Regional Commission, the Northwood Circle project surveys have been completed thanks to Rodney Schubert. We have met the requirements of the 70% threshold for that grant to move forward at 78%. So this project will be moving along, and I think we'll probably hear about the award. I think it's first week of March, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it's April, May.
Is it? I thought it was first week of March. But lastly, closing out chairman report, January, I think I got that date wrong. I apologize. Anyway, last Monday, Martin Luther King celebration at Wagner Grove Church, put on by the Pastors and Layman's Men's Fellowship, was a great day. It was a great service. If you was unable to attend, man, you missed it. It was really good, a lot of good singing. The theme for the day was Keep Marching. And, it was really good. Dr. Goodrow was there, Sheriff Moore was there, and myself, along with several members of the community, was there. But anyway, good job to Wagner Grove Church on that day. Moving on, statements and remarks of citizens on tonight's agenda. Hearing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. We're going to take up items 7, 8, and 9 on the consent agenda as one vote. Consider the First Amendment to the Intergovernmental Water Supply Agreement between Franklin County and Madison County Industrial Development and Building Authority. Number 8, consider First Amendment Intergovernmental Water Supply Agreement between the City of Elberton and Madison County Industrial Development Authority.
No, that's not right.
Yeah, I'm reading that wrong, sir. There should be the
Board of Commissioners, yeah.
Board of Commissioners.
All of the title does say that.
Yeah, but it's actually, it don't say it in the document, I don't think.
No, the documents say.
Yeah.
It's written that way because that is the original agreement.
Oh, okay.
And then part of the amendment is the other party's consent to the assignment of the Board of Commissioners. The IDA's already made that assignment.
Yeah, all right. And then item number 9 is the First Amendment Intergovernmental Water Supply Agreement between the City of Royston and Madison County Industrial Development Building Authority. With that being said, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion on this consent agenda to move forward.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Dawson, second by Commissioner Chandler. Any discussion, gentlemen, on these? Commissioner Chandler?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
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 Thanks, gentlemen. Old business, consider preliminary plat for Serenity Cove. I think Mr. Swan is here to answer any questions, gentlemen, and do a presentation on it.
Adam Swan, 1041 Founders Lake Drive, Athens, Georgia. So this is I think we started with 36 lots originally during the rezone. and during all the studies for the engineering, it's been reduced down to 31. Other than that, essentially the design is pretty much the same as during the rezone with the roads and all. I think we did add a landscape strip going in and out there, for the entrance. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
This is, the 55 and older community, right, or
Yes,
65 and older?
55 and over.
55 and older. All right, gentlemen, what is, you gonna have a private sewer system?
It's septic.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, gentlemen, any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
This preliminary plat came before the planning and zoning, and there was a lot of questions as to a lot of things, but overall, after much discussion, the planning and zoning figured that those things will be addressed at a later date, such as, you know, the gas line running right through a middle of a lot and that kind of thing. But as far as the approval of the preliminary plat, the planning and zoning voted unanimously to recommend approval to the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, sir.
So the requirements of the preliminary plat, you know, yes.
All right, gentlemen. Hear no other questions? I'll ask for a motion to move forward.
I make a motion that this be approved as noted with the reduction of lots. I don't know, I do have some concerns about where we have encroached on the utility easements that are established on that, but I'm making some assumptions that as the developer, you've worked that out with the affected utilities.
Can I speak?
Yes, absolutely, please do.
Yeah, so that's Colonial Pipeline, and we have been in discussions. Surveyor has now staked where those impacts on that easement will go, and then we'll meet with Colonial and determine what the depth is of the actual pipe in the ground, and we have to meet certain requirements as far as how far we've got to be above that pipe, and they've got to be on site during construction during that time, or if we're going under it, how far below we've got to go under it. So that'll all be coordinated through them, and it's through a letter of permission, and then the engineer will design that road bed and then utilities that are encroaching through that easement. Once we meet with them on site and determine the depths that we'll have to, where the pipeline is currently and the depths over and below.
The only thing I would ask, Adam, is after you've secured that information, make sure it gets into where we record plats and deeds here, so that down the road, somebody doesn't come in and say, oops, I didn't know that was there.
I'll have the surveyor do an as-built.
Yeah,
Take care of that.
was one of the things I was gonna mention. It needs to be noted on that particular lot deed. If it crosses that lot, it needs to be noted at what specs, what coordinates or whatever it is on that lot. So, because the last thing we want is not necessarily for somebody to come back and say, not know it's there, but somebody to come back and decide to build an outbuilding, not realizing, yeah, I know it's here somewhere. And
Yes.
Across the road there, I wanna say we was about 8 foot deep. But now you're in a lower shoulder than us, so I don't know, you may be a lot more shallow, I don't know.
Well, and in talking to them too, the actual easement, they said, and we had to get with the surveyor on this, but I think it was a 100-foot easement. But where the pipeline was, it was 20 feet. It wasn't center easement.
That's right.
So we had to get with the surveyor and Colonial Pipeline to determine the actual easement.
Where the utility is in the east.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that, the reason I noted that was because like lot number 24, which is a great big one right dead center, it's coming right smack through the middle of it, so therefore it needs to be designated on the deed itself
Yes.
where the coordinates is, so nobody tries to come in and pull a permit later for a garage or an outbuilding
Sure.
and be in violation. We just cause a headache down the future if it's noted on the deed. Mike, wouldn't that be probably your best suggestion, is to note that on the deed, on each individual lot that it surpasses?
Well, so from a title search perspective, that easement's already on the record, so if there's to be any deviation from that easement or refinement of it, then that'll be an amendment to that easement between the landowner and the pipeline, so it'll be a record that way.
Thank you, sir.
Just one question, Mike, this may not, you guide me on this, it may not be appropriate in the preliminary plan. There's somewhere in our ordinance that tells us that there's a maximum number of lots on a dead end. And with only having one egress here, and obviously it's a big loop, so you got a big circle. Does that constitute what you're talking about, the dead end? Or is there, maybe the better question is, are we concerned about there only being one entrance with serving that number of lots?
I don't know the answer to the final question there. I mean, that's a planning thing. Nobody in planning has asked me about that, so I haven't looked at it. I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but I think the definition of cul-de-sac is when it terminates with bulb and a turnaround, not so.
So that's not going to be considered in that.
Right.
I don't have a concern with, or at least for my engineering background, with the size of the subdivision it is. I do have a question of Adam, in your conversation with the utilities, and I know a lot of times utilities, they'll get a 100-foot easement, put their initial build on one side to preserve room for the other. Is that the case here? And where I'm going with that is any future improvements after the road's built and dedicated, whose responsibility is that?
Inside the easement?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. As far as the right of way, that essentially is going to be taken over by the county.
Well, they're going to give us, I say that, they're going to give you permission to build a road over the top
Yes,
of
sir.
it, which in turn, you're going to try to turn that right of way back over to us.
Yes, sir.
For long term, so we will absolve, not the right word. Absorb, yeah.
Right.
We will absorb that responsibility, so I'm trying to understand what any future potential concerns, cost to the county may be that's outside the norm of our general.
In the event if they had to go in and, I guess,
If they go and tear it up, if they have to go in and tear it up for a leak, or if they decide, okay, we're gonna parallel this pipeline with another one, so we're gonna tear it up.
that's a good question. I can talk to my attorney and tell them, in that right of way, when it's deeded over to the county, how do we address that with the pipeline?
One quick thing, Rodney, we're having an issue now with the gas line and some of our water lines. Is there anything that he needs to not put in that may cause a problem?
He needs to use PVC.
Yeah, but we had fire hydrant issues also.
No, that's because it's hooked to the duct.
Okay, never mind. We got an issue with the pipeline putting out some kind of reaction that's causing water line leakages. So I just want to make sure you knew about it, so you would not put that in the ground.
Okay.
Causing you future headache.
And concerning your question with the loop, I think that was addressed, that was brought up there in rezone, even before I came into rezone, I met with Mr. Lipinski, from the road department. And that's why we did the circular where if the road is blocked on one side, we still have egress and ingress on the other.
And as far as the footages go, I think there was, if I recall correctly, something is, if it's more than 1,500 foot long and ends in a dead end, there's some clarity, but because this loops, it disqualifies it from that 1,500 foot, if I'm not mistaken.
And there's one specific statement, I think it's like 20 lots maximum, there's a maximum number on that cul-de-sac. Yeah. On the dead end. Specifically says that, so I want to make sure we were proving something that didn't qualify.
And to be honest, if you were going to do a one-way entrance egress, this is the way to do it. I mean, having the loop. All right, so I have a motion by Commissioner Adams. If there's no other questions, I'll entertain a second. Second by Commissioner Doster. Any other discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, Commissioner Chandler.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Thank y'all. Have a good night. Take care.
Question, it's come up a little bit of a twilight zone right now. One side of the road's his, one side of it's mine.
Consider a contract with Armatrout, Matthew Thurman, PC, for Madison County CDBG Water Main Extension Project. The breakdown that came in earlier today, or Christina sent it out earlier today, showing the design phases and bid. I don't know if the bid phase is even part of it. I think we've already done the bid, I don't know, on this one.
No, I mean, what was sent out today had like construction phase services, which included the construction fee and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not there, it's just this, full contract and exhibits. In the contract, it doesn't specify a dollar amount or a capped dollar amount for the project. So what was sent today, I had requested to Armatrout to provide an estimated number of task hours and staff rate to compute, a not to exceed dollar figure, and what they sent back was the document I shared, and what you have in front of you with the 60,000 at the bottom, is they're estimated for all phases. My question was, and I think this is more to Mike, and Mike, I may have sent it to you late the day before you left your office. Do we need to take this document or these numbers, do they need to be inserted into the contract somewhere, or can the board approve the contract and exhibits in the motion not to exceed $60,000? Or whatever the board wants to cap this at.
Yeah.
Rodney, you saw that? You want to say it?
So this total of all phases, is this, I'm not sure what they mean for this to be when you itemize it. Is this supposed to be a schedule of values as well as a not to exceed?
I don't have that answer, because that was what I had thought whenever I opened it and read it. It doesn't look like it said not to exceed number, but when I asked for that number and I asked for the rate and rate per staff, this is what they gave me back.
Yeah.
As a not to exceed.
Well, I think it needs to be this. We first need to know what this is, and then we'll need to add some language in the contract to refer to it and describe it.
And when I had spoke to Brett Thurman last Friday, when I got some information back from the board, I did let Brett know that I would ask our board to postpone it until February the 3rd to make sure this verbiage can be corrected.
That third line, they do list it as a maximum engineering fee.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you choose to move forward tonight, you can go ahead and set the fee at a not to exceed of 60,000, and they'll just have to amend their documents. If you choose to move forward, we can wait until they amend theirs, and we can vote that way.
I think
Totally up to you guys. Rodney, is there anything that sticks out in your head on that one that may concern you, considering you're over the water?
Not off the top of my head, I don't.
So gentlemen, would you like to postpone till February 3rd, do we get it in writing, or would you like to make a condition to not to exceed 60,000?
Last time we spoke, there wasn't a critical time frame on it, so I don't mind postponing it, just to make sure that we're comfortable. I agree. Council feels comfortable with it. Some of the questions I raised initially is providing some sort of not to exceed value, and then now kind of understanding kind of the general breakout, because you can see right here by the breakout, $25 grand just for construction, inspection-based services. We may not need it. You may want that, but we get, it's kind of apples to apples comparison now. So I feel more comfortable doing that, and we defer it for a little further refinement.
That's going to have to be, because right now, I mean, there's not even a reference in the contract document to this. At a minimum, section 2.05 would have to incorporate this, but I think we need a little more information.
No worries. All right, so I have a motion to postpone by Commissioner Doster. Do I have a second?
Second motion.
we need to put a date on that, postpone till
Next Monday,
February 3rd?
yes. Or might be feel comfortable. that we
Yeah,
can-
if we can, I mean, you and I may have to do a little more talking to.
Yeah,
Ian.
and I have talked to Amateur and they're aware of the February 3rd deadline.
Right, yeah, I think we can do it by then.
Okay.
So I have a motion and a second to postpone to February 3rd. Any discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none. Commissioner May?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Tell Brett I'm a troublemaker.
Yeah. Yeah, he was excited about my email Friday afternoon.
You know who asked that question?
I don't know, I didn't elaborate.
Yes, it is. All right, consider amendment to the Madison County Code of Ordinances, storm weather pay policy.
So I will apologize, one, I thought we were ready. So we just did timesheets for employees today for the past 2 weeks. When it comes to our attention that our ordinance is currently written, you can see here this bottom paragraph, a maximum of 24 hours, 3 8-hour days, et cetera. We have exceeded that amount thus far for 2025. So since that was brought up, our question is, does the board want to keep that at a maximum of 24 hours per calendar year for inclement weather? Or do you want to remove that to be at the discretion of by official announcement by the chairman or county manager or designee? If y'all have any input on that.
Yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna postpone the vote on this for tonight, but we would like some input back. And just to be honest, the way it reads now, you allow 24 hours for hazard pay. And like Ms. Baxter said, we've already used it this year because of the 3 days we've taken. So if we had a hurricane come through, a tornado or anything else, and we had hazard pay out there,
Now,
we
what's that?
could close
Yeah.
facilities. If we close facilities, people would have to use their vacation time
Yeah.
to be able to close the facilities. So I don't know where the 24-hour came from. I think it's a little short, considering all things that possibly can happen within a year.
And I did reach out to HR about, over the last 4 to 5 years, what our average is, and we average 16 hours a year. It's normally 2 days a year that we close due to inclement weather. And those are not only for snow, it's normally for some kind of hurricane. So this is unusual, this year is unusual. So if you have any thoughts on that. And then,
So one option is to just take out that beginning part.
yeah, that I can
So
go back.
start with weather pay for inclement weather will be allowed annually in the courthouse.
Mhm.
You should have some provision in there, though, if the employee is, and I'm the devil's advocate here, if an employee already has scheduled time off or some
Yeah.
extended sick leave, for that, they shouldn't draw inclement weather
That
pay.
is, yes, that is in here.
That's in there.
So if you already have a scheduled vacation, quick time doctor's appointment, you don't
You
get.
don't get that.
No. That's in here. It is broken out. One section I wanted to amend is on the second page, and this was something I wanted to talk to Mike about, specifically where it needs to go. But adding in, we mentioned 8-hour shifts, and that's what you're paid for inclement weather, but you know, we have some departments that it may be a 6-hour shift, so they're only paid for 6 hours, or you may be at the transfer station, it's a 10-hour shift, but they're only paid for 8. Currently, they're not paid for their full 10 hours. They have to use their own personal time. So I was wanting to change that verbiage to where it reads that scheduled shift hours.
Remove the word hours.
Yeah.
Right, so remove the hours.
So do we know what other counties do?
This is, a lot of the red is what's been pulled in from other counties. We looked at Henry, Bullock, Newman, Lee, and then Stockbridge. A lot of counties don't have a lot of information, when you get into, you get into inclement weather, you get into, storm pay, and then declared state of emergencies locally, not state declared state of emergencies. Then there's a lot of conversations with the difference of an 80-hour and 84-hour week employee. There's been a lot of conversation around a time and a half rate and a 2-time rate. and how those are calculated, and I've talked to Bobby some on how that affects EMS for their 80-hour employees.
On 24-hour shifts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, and I'll sort of put it in writing, but, you know, if you look at what some, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have this, but if you look at some industries, they have certain limits.
Yeah.
That, you know, you don't go over that, because if you do, then you just set yourself up.
Yeah. And I think that,
Where you have to use your personal time off or whatever at some point. And, I think that's more prevalent, it's probably in industries, I don't want to get too far into calculating and saying this and that, and then, because.
and if that's something that you want to leave, that's fine.
The biggest thing that we faced was the problem with the different shift hours. Sheriff's Department's 12-hour shift, EMS 24-hour shift, the courthouse 8-hour shift, transfer station 6-hour shift. So if you call
the Sheriff's Department, are those people, even if it's hazard, are they not working?
Yes.
That's,
unless it's their scheduled day off, but the ones that have to work on their scheduled day on.
so if the government complex is closed,
Correct.
all employees will be paid, it's not all employees, they get paid 8 hours for inclement weather. The complex does. So does EMS, sheriff, the ones that are working.
So it'd be like double time for them.
Right, so what this does is it changes, they don't get that 8 hours, but their rate of pay changes to work for hazard pay or weather pay. So if they worked Tuesday with a snowstorm, they were in the snow, their hours that the chairman calls or declares weather pay is in effect, they'll get paid 1.5 their rate for weather pay. Yes.
So does that include people that come in and work for the county for the road?
Yes.
Yes.
That anybody that's called into work, or anybody that works during weather, what is declared weather pay or inclement weather, their rate is 1.5 times.
And all,
Because they're essential. Non-essential just gets a flat 8 hours for closing the building.
Yes.
You specify like a transfer station, if that storm weather declaration is on a day that they're not scheduled to work.
But then they don't get it.
Yes. It's been complex. But
Is there a
doing
difference
time
between how anyone would get paid under inclement weather 2-111 versus state of emergency 2-112?
No.
Okay. Because the numbering and just the wording is a little different, and
Yeah.
I couldn't quite match it up.
No, it's two separate things. We went back and added that state of emergency in from Hurricane Helene. We realized we didn't have one in our ordinance, but the rate is still the same. So you still your 80-hour, 84-hour exempt, non-exempt, essential, non-essential examples work for both. For the 1.5.
So does an employee get 2-111 plus 2-112?
No, it's one or the other.
Okay.
We can clear all this up later if y'all want to discuss it tonight. We just
Well,
want to
I
make
think
you
it's
all
So
aware.
why don't we clean it up and get it into a format that this is what we're doing.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we do want to send this out there for you guys to pick apart or read through or maybe catch an error. Once we can get it finalized, then I would like to get it over to Mike in the final version and get his blessing before we bring it back for an adoption.
Yeah, and I guess my question probably wasn't clear, because I know for any particular day or hour, you would get one or the other, but like for a year-long period, can I use up everything 111 gives me plus everything 112 gives me?
No, that's not the way that staff interprets it. We interpret it every 24 hours.
All right, that just wasn't very clear,
Make that clear.
So what would you recommend? Would you recommend they all be consolidated into like one section, or do you recommend state of emergency, this is how this happens, a weather closed hazard pay, this is how that is processed.
Well, I mean, if it's gonna be the same for people regardless of whether it's state of emergency or, whether, I guess, play it the other way, whether it's inclement weather that causes a state of emergency or
Right.
some other state of emergency that's not due to weather, if it's all the same, it seems like we would just have one set of rules that applies to all of those situations.
Okay.
Well, there's two differences, because the state of emergency normally has to be declared by the governor.
Well, this does not recognize his declaration.
That's what 2112 is once the governor declares a state of emergency.
Actually, it only says local, it doesn't say
Yeah.
state. Like last
It's-
week,
So we need to
for
clarify
3
that.
days, we're also part of a state emergency.
Yeah.
This is.
But if we have a tornado and the governor does not declare, and it only hits Madison County, the governor won't declare. So therefore, you have to have something, according to ACCG, they want us to have a policy on hand for the declaration for emergencies made by the governor and a declaration made for just if it was us in general. That's the reason I think they may need to read identical, but I think that's what they're asking for. I don't know.
But if they read identical, that would mean I could get, I could get 3 days, whatever the limit is. I
Yeah.
could get my 24 hours for weather, and then I could stack it to the state of emergency.
We would have to make sure we add that clause to it that says you only refer to one.
Typically, governor's declaration of state of emergencies after the fact as a result of damage, not him saying you need to shut down. It's saying as a result of.
Well, actually, the first one we had at the beginning of January, he declared 2 days before. A state of emergency came out from the governor's office 2 days
That
prior.
statement did require us to shut down.
Yes, we received a letter from the governor's office requiring our offices to close.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I shared it. What? Got it. I ain't kidding, I'll read it to you.
Christine, does this also account for like sheriff's office employees or EMS that would not be scheduled for that day that you declare?
Yes, so if you're not scheduled, you do not receive any kind of additional pay. You have to be scheduled to receive pay or be called in to do the work.
So that's pretty well how I feel.
It was an executive order from the state of Georgia for state of emergency for winter weather. That came out 2 days prior to, because I had somebody called and asked, why are you closing? I said, because the governor said so. And I sent them a picture of it because they didn't believe me. But that was it. That was the email we received. But anyway, no worries, we'll figure it out, get back to you soon. Gentlemen, moving on, consider a beer and wine license for La Cabana and Family Dollar.
Point of order, since this,
Oh, sorry.
since this was a consideration, do we need to officially postpone, or just all hands say yes? I just,
So you're gonna send us what you think is gonna be the final?
I think we'll throw away and start over.
So
If you want to do it formally, you could, sound like it needs to be postponed indefinitely.
Yes.
I know you've got a million things you're doing.
Wow, yeah.
You get to do it per view prior.
All right, so I have a motion by Commissioner Dobbs to postpone indefinitely.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kirk. Any discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, Commissioner Kirk.
Yes.
yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Consider beer and wine license for La Cabana and Family Dollar.
As of this afternoon, they have both met all the required advertising, online portal confirmation, publications, advertisements.
And unfortunately, they literally went to the last minute. I think this happened at 3 o'clock today. We finally got confirmation, because Ms. Becker was not happy and stated to both of them that they got to do better. But everything does now meet all requirements. So I will entertain a motion for these two, La Cabana and Family Dollar.
The licenses be approved.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Chandler, second by Commissioner May. Any discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, Commissioner Dodd.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
All right, item number 14, new business. postpone per Rodney Mike to offer special bid process. All right. Does anybody need clarity on that? Because Mike will be happy to explain this process. All right.
My concern is we have a written policy that would affect everybody.
Well, it's actually, so it's state law, so, most of the provisions on ethics and conflict of interest apply only to appointed and elected officials. One, however, state law, which is actually in the criminal code section, applies to employees as well as elected, and appointed officials. And I am concerned, and I know that that's been looked at before, and different people have had different interpretations. My recommendation would be to go through one of the stated procedures in that ordinance or in that statute for this situation, which is to have a competitive seal bid process, that employees and non-employees. So, as I understand it, what the county's looking for here is a well, in close proximity to the standalone Harris system up in the Harrison area of the county, because that will both reduce the county's cost of water it's acquiring for that system, as well as enable a connection to Franklin County as a pass-through to sell water. So if we can come up with a set of specifications for that, put it out for competitive sealed bid, if Mr. Schubert is the best bidder, then that's fine. But that clears up the statutory ethics problem.
And Mike, on that note, thank you for coming up with that. Christina told me about it because I think I was in a meeting when you called, and I know there was nobody trying to get, all concerns were valid, that every commissioner was tossing back and forth about this. I do appreciate the dialogue that took place in that. I'm glad we found a consensus in doing it this way. Good job, sir. And I look forward to seeing that come across there. Item number 15, consider resolution to amend the ordinance, establish the bylaws of Planning and Zoning Commission. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
There has been much talk in the last several years about the makeup of the Planning and Zoning Commission and how it is with a 7-member board. We have lost a member of the Planning and Zoning in District 3, I believe. And now we're down to 6. And I brought this before the Planning and Zoning. We feel that this may be the perfect time to do what some of you have been wanting to do for a long time. And I think I've spoken with some of you about this particular situation. We believe that this is the perfect time now to bring it, a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board, that we reconstruct the Planning and Zoning to mirror the Board of Commissioners. Basically, with a 6-member board with a chair. The chair would only vote in case of a absent member and a tie. And just to mirror the way you operate, we feel like this is a perfect time. We have a person now that is appointed by the Planning and Zoning. Her time is not up. What we're recommending or asking is that that person be put in place to represent District 3, if that is okay with the Commissioner in District 3. And then everything else will flow as you all have a nominee and you would nominate that person when their time is up. So we're recommending to the Board of Commissioners that we change the way the P&Z is constructed to mirror the Board of Commissioners. We feel like this is a perfect time to do it.
Thank you, sir.
So, it's up to you guys.
And that's your board voted on this?
Yes, we did. We voted unanimously to recommend to you guys to, change the way we operate.
Thank you, sir. All right, gentlemen, any questions on this one? If hearing none,
So how would the chairman then be appointed, the chairman of that committee? Based on y'all's
The chairman will be voted on by the members of the board of commissioners. The chairman and the vice chairman will be voted on as it does now
from your committee.
From our committee.
So the six appointees, so would the chairman lose the appointee?
No, the chairman will still have an appointee.
Okay.
Everybody will still have an appointee.
The committee at large would not.
Correct.
Right,
The planning
correct.
commission loses its appointment.
The committee at large loses its appointee.
yes. Thank you for that clarity. All right, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion on this one.
One question I hadn't got far enough to know, does the recommendations from CPL, do they cover that different structure?
I haven't seen that yet.
One of the things you may consider, Mike has already written a proclamation or what do you call it, ordinance? What you call it, Mike?
Well, we rewrote the bylaws a couple of years ago, but that sort of went by the wayside. If you want the full explanation, all I have ever been shown as far as planning commission bylaws are, if you flip through your packet, there's a page that looks like this. The top right is handwritten, approved 12/18/97. It stops, I only have the first page. It's all anybody's county could ever provide me. I have, following that, you have a full document with signatures that says it was approved on April 5th, 1994. However, these are people, I mean, as we just know from having been here a long time, this is by the planning commission itself, not the board of commissioners, assigned by Mr. Leo Smith as the chairman of the planning commission. So I honestly don't know what the bylaws are. There was a push to make a change in appointments and methods back in 2007. And since that part is addressed on page 1 of 97, and it's the most recent, we chose to amend it. So our 2007 amendment refers to that one page from 97. This one follows likewise because, again, it's actually a subject that's covered on that one page we have from 97. I'm doing the best I can with what I have. My recommendation is to start over, and I think that's what Mr. Scott said that for. And you may do that in the near future with some recommendations from CPL, but this is the immediate, quickest way to do so.
Do you feel like it'd be appropriate for us to adopt this recommendation, but just with the understanding that we may have another recommendation coming up pretty quickly?
Yes, sir.
And speaking with CPL, I think they did say if we were going to follow through that this would be the most logical way to that.
It's you know, this is handling the immediate situation, knowing that a more complete review needs to be taken.
So can we title this an interim resolution, recognizing that we've got additional work to do?
If you'd like to, that's fine. It's sort of
If not somewhere that 15 years down the road, somebody else will be talking about the same thing.
You're right.
So it
That's everything we do.
That's everything we do.
That's everything.
Right.
That's right.
Whether you call it interim or not, it's just depending on where you do something with it later on.
This is a
that's
type
what
of
the
resolution.
top one, the
Yeah.
top sheet is what you're voting on, it's a
Yeah.
resolution
Yeah.
put together
Yeah.
to make the amendment.
And I would also add that the motion probably, assuming you would like to go forward tonight, the motion would need to, adopt this resolution and also appoint Ms. Cynthia Fortson to the vacant seat that was formerly occupied by, Ms. Harvin.
I think I've already spoken with Commissioner May.
Right, and I was just gonna say, just for the record, I have no issue with Ms. Fortson going into that seat. I've had nobody come forward in this history, willing to, take on that role, so thank you to Ms. Fortson for that.
So I'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution amending this ordinance established before us.
I'll make a motion.
Second motion.
A motion by Commissioner Kirk, second by Commissioner Chandler. Any discussion, gentlemen?
Just to clarify, your, motion is to approve the resolution and to appoint Cynthia Fortson as the District
Exactly.
3 representative.
Yes, very good.
Just want to make sure.
All right. Hearing no other discussion, Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen, and again, thank you, Mike, thank you, Noah, thank you, Mr. May, and thank you, Christine. One small leap.
One final question on that vote, that take effect immediately or?
It's immediately when we vote.
Okay.
Unless stated otherwise, it's always immediate. All right, consider awarding seal bid number 2501, Commerce Water Meter Connection Project, to consider proposal contract between Madison County Board of Commissioners and awardee.
So I, spoke with Rodney, and Rodney brought, the bids, I have them here. He went through and marked up, and I emailed them to you guys last week. Rodney, you may explain this better than I can, but my understanding is the water department will purchase a vault that already has meters and other detection devices in it, that those meters and items were quoted inside of the sealed bid packet. So when Rodney went through and itemized, he did all three bids the same way. There were some items that were included in that vault that we don't need broken out separately. So when you remove the quotes from each one, it changes that total that bottom dollar figure. So that opening sheet that you see, you can see obviously there's the lowest bid and the highest bid, but when Rodney went through and took out some of the unnecessary items, that those numbers changed and that order changed. So your recommendation is Dell Construction for the lowest bid.
And that lowest bid dollar amount is?
$75,650.
Thank you.
So the rest of the other two?
Griffin changed, it lowered to $82,300. Mid-South bid lowered to $128,000.
Thanks.
Now, these things that were these things that the bidders added even though they weren't part of the specifications they were supposed to bid on?
No, these were, I think they were listed as part of the specifications.
So was there an amendment to the
There was not
invitation bid?
There was not an addendum made.
So what they done, they saw the scope of work, and I don't think they understood that they were pricing labor only. So they priced the labor, and then when they read the scope showing the vault and the metering, they assumed they were furnishing that also.
But there was no addendum or
No, there's no addendum. Each packet and each bid turned in looks exactly the same. There's a packet provided, and those extra meters and stuff were listed.
So,
They all look the same. It was still in your cost of labor for each item.
so do we know that they honor what you took out? Have there been any discussion with it?
The vault comes already put together, and they price putting the vault together. You know, separate meters in each one of them, the backflow preventers, check valves, and the PRV.
But have
This
we?
all comes, it's packaged deal.
Right. But we haven't discussed with them that we're removing stuff out of it, with none of them, right?
No.
Well, then how did we get the lower prices? Well, two things. We didn't send out an addendum or a clarification saying that there were changes to the contract documents that we had on hand. That's first thing, right? We didn't do that.
No, because this wasn't, I don't think that Rodney realized that until after he got the sealed bids back and was looking through them. And that's when he realized, well, we don't need these items here.
So how did we deduct monies from their proposal?
each one, it was filled out like this, each one, they're all the same. And they listed their own price here. So Rodney.
So basically, we did deductive alternates. We attempted to do deductive alternates, but it's my understanding, you can't, you take a number and you can't pick and choose deductive alternates you want to take. I mean, then.
This was a labor-only quote, and they quoted materials.
Yeah, but that's what the,
It was in the packet.
RFP asked for.
Well, and that's fine.
Either
We
way,
can
I
give
think
it
we're fine with
either way.
either company, we've worked,
Yeah,
Rodney's worked with
that's-
both companies.
Yeah,
But you don't have a price from any of them, is the point.
We don't have a,
Under Georgia Works Public Construction Law, I think the recommendation needs to be that we reject all bids and authorize clarification of the specifications and rebid it for a legal purpose. I'm not the counselor, but as the engineer, that's my recommendation.
That is the legally correct way to do it. Another way to proceed after you reject all bids, would be to, now state public works instructional law only requires the bidding process if it's over 100,000. I'm not sure what county policy is, but assuming it's not different, you could not do another bidding process, but just negotiate with the individual companies and see who gives you the best price. If it's under 100,000, then you don't have to bid it.
And you don't have to come back for a vote.
Well, you still have, well, that's right, then, 'cause you can approve under 100,000, that's true.
Or you can acknowledge it the way it is, the 103, 105, or 152 as presented. Award, and then go back and negotiate after the fact, and just say, hey, we don't want that.
Can't do that.
If we approve that, then that's
I don't
what
wanna
we'll be
do that.
expecting.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't understand that.
Well, it's just not legal law.
Yeah, right, because
Well, if you approve it,
Not
it's
understand
approved.
the bid.
What's to say that the person that you approve it with is going to agree to amend the contract to take out what they've already
Because we ain't
contracted to do?
we ain't
it's very possible. So then therefore you can go rebid. If you say, oh, I'm sorry, you're correct, I didn't realize that there would be no labor in this, we quoted labor for something that don't exist, so therefore, yes, you can deduct those numbers.
Well, they may or may not agree to a change order, but we just can't have that sitting here today.
You can ask them. But again, if they say they don't want to, then you can scrap the whole thing.
No, you can't, the board will have already approved it.
All right, we'll just start over.
Well, with the understanding, based on discussion, that the probable outcome will be less than $100,000, I'll make a recommendation that we reject all bids and authorize staff to send clarified specifications to the vendors and get appropriate pricing back for what we're asking for. Now, if it's less than 100,000 anticipated, then a formal advertisement would not be required.
Correct.
That's my recommendation.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Dodger to recommend, rejection of all bids. Do I have a second?
I got a second.
I have a second by Commissioner Kirk. All right.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
I'm sorry.
Hold on 1 second.
No worries.
How to get that thought out.
No worries. Any other discussion regarding this, gentlemen?
Well, I think Derek talked about that we do have the discussion with them, and if it comes up under 100, then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So I just want to make sure everybody's clear that so that's what I say.
All right.
And you bid when you anticipate it's going to be over 100. We have solid grounds to believe that's
That's
not
not
the case,
gonna be
and
the
thus
case.
to proceed
That's
in
right.
this manner.
Right. Okay.
All right, Commissioner Adams.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
If where we are now just gives us an idea of what those bids are, should.
Yes.
Yes. It should turn out just like you said, but it'll be legal.
It will, as long as it comes in under. I mean, I would not be surprised if the numbers do not change and go up a bit, if the bidders were anticipating on some profit in the materials portion as well as the labor, which is why we can't just do these numbers, you know, out of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. You agree with that?
Gentlemen, road updates. Commissioner Adams?
I have potholes on Seagrace Road, Sanford Road, and Seagrace Mill Road, and also, low shoulders on the, Sanford Nicholson Road that need to be addressed.
So Seagraves Mill and Sanford Road both have low shoulders and potholes?
Yes, and Seagrace Road also has potholes, which is, another little side road over there.
Commissioner Chandler?
There's some small potholes in the center, right where the paving laps on Irwin Kirk Road. That's a fairly new paving job. Be easy fix there, and sure we'll have that new paving stay here. Also, I talked to you and Alan about Chandler Road. Have y'all found out the property owner of those trees?
I have not.
I believe
Spoke
it's,
with Alan about that.
I believe you found it's Joe Gulls.
Oh, really?
One of the neighbors that contacted me, I don't anticipate that being an issue. I think that'll be correct.
All right.
There also is a place on Channel Road further down, maybe say it's around, be roughly around the 1400, with the dirt on the side of the pavement, and holds water on the road, right on that curve. It's pretty easy to see one spot there.
So these shoulders clipped. Commissioner May?
I've already gone on, one I got going on.
All right. Commissioner Kirk?
Surprisingly, no one has called me about a road.
All right. Commissioner Doster?
Not a particular road, but looking at number one on the road update package, it says companies can contact the road department or receive bid packet. Is that in addition to, I think, aren't we required to put everything on the Georgia Procurement Register?
Yes, it's on Georgia Procurement, ran the papers on our website, all the good things.
In this too, I'd like to thank y'all for the lighted stop signs at the Sanford Crab.
You're welcome, sir. Yeah, we found those, and I had them put them there and at 172 there at Jones Chapel. Not 172,
174.
174 and Shiloh, Fort Lamar Road.
Yeah, and there's been several people that commented and
Yeah.
appreciated that.
We wanted to try it. We did not go extensive. We got those to try. I did see on your post on Facebook, somebody said, why didn't you get the lighted stop signs? For one, they're gonna get stalled because they're really cool, and the other problem is they're $2,000 a piece. So I don't want anybody to have a $2,000 stop sign. So,
Did you reach out to the DOT about having them look at the left turn right at Midway Grocery, turn left on the East Commerce Road?
no, I haven't. It's the first I've heard about that.
Yeah, I mentioned it. Anyway, there's been some concern about,
Midway left turn?
yeah, if you're heading west on 98, just as you pass Midway and East Commerce turns to the left, that's a very short sight distance coming out of that curve to sit somebody to run from somebody waiting at that left-hand turn. We can look at that and see if it's appropriate to turn the other way.
I have sent an email about meeting with DOT. I think you were copied on it for the Hope Thompson 98 and also for the D. Williams intersection because of the vault. We reached out to DOT to see what their plan is there in case we need to set that vault back some. So, yeah, I got you down for Midway while we're doing it. Maybe we just catch them all in one day. The road department currently has a 2025 LMIG road project out for sealed bid. Bids will be accepted until Friday, February 28th at 11 a.m. Companies can contact the road department to receive the bid packet. One thing I found rather shocked by was there was a meeting Friday morning at 9 a.m. and hats off to Christina. A lot of our LMIG stuff opens up back in August, July, August,
and we're normally one of the first counties in Georgia to submit an LMAG road project. 52% of Georgia has a deadline of February 1st and has not done any submittal, according to the state website. And they were begging counties to submit your LMAG request. So, good job.
Send a second.
I know, right?
Been doubled.
There is talks of another LRA, but it's just talks. The road department and crew have been clearing shoulders in the culvert area. The sidearm crew is traveling through the county clearing right-of-ways and raising road canopies. The road department recently installed stop signs, lights crowd up the holla, and Sanford Road, Highway 174, Shallow Fort Lamar. We hope these devices will bring additional awareness to these intersections, but they're not speed devices. You still must slow down. The road department is business as usual on all county-maintained roads. The department also has crews that is stumping property behind the EMS station that Hurley completed approximately 50% of that project. Urgent matters. Statements from, hang on, sorry. Statements from remarks from citizens.
I have one.
Yes.
I think Commissioner Adams is probably aware that there's some people that have complained about obstructing traffic going into the golf course thing, and called me and said, hey, folks, I ain't got nothing to do with it. So I pointed with Commissioner Adams to address that situation.
We have talked, I sent an email to Todd, and we put signage, additional signage up on the road, on both ends for no through trucks and no trucks over 6 wheels. We put additional speed limit signage on the road. I think it's probably going to take some direct communication with the developer to encourage their subcontractors and suppliers to route their traffic from the Sanford Road side into their property. Actually, it would be really much better if they would go ahead and develop their primary entrance off the Sanford Road, and let's get them tuned to that. But yeah, I passed it on. It was Mr. Richard Whitewich who contacted them.
All right, thank you. Any other statements, remarks from citizens? Statements, remarks from commissioners?
One thing that Commissioner Austin mentioned at the end of the day, we mentioned 2 or 3 times that took action in getting our representatives to do whatever proposal they have to do to open the door for potential regional water commission. Do we need to do that as a vote?
So Senator Gann come and visited with us Friday. We spent about an hour and a half talking about this. And I asked him, has he had any conversations with the ones that actually hold the power for this? And he said no. I asked him to please keep me updated, and if he would speak to Hart County and Elbert County. I think Stevens County is even in the mix on this, and keep us updated as to how this is proceeding. But we had no problem. He gave us a cover letter that he'd already put together, and he wanted us to amend some of the things of what we would like to see or not like to see, and then submit it in. And I made it clear that I don't need to be in the middle. I need somebody that has the water to not cause bad blood. I know Rodney and myself and some of the IDA members have talked about it. We don't want to be in the middle, submitting the first letter, committing the people that we're buying from. We need the ones that's selling to us to commit first, and then we'll follow suit. Or we have no problem with filling it out and submitting this. I asked him, had he spoke with House Representative Mr. Powell and House Representative Leverett on this, and he also said no. So I think the only person he's talked to so far is us. So he's going to follow up with those guys and then get back to us with some kind of report so we know how to proceed.
My understanding may not be correct. Nothing really can happen until we request it. Essentially, we're requesting a door be open for conversation. We're not talking about defining a regional water council or anything. It's just a matter of opening the door for opportunity for this discussion to move forward.
Yeah, that's not how it was pitched to us. It was pitched to us as, we need to get this signed, we need to get everybody on board to sign this so we can create an authority, and then we can talk. So the question,
That's not
That's not my interpretation of the
that's
conversation.
exactly the conversation that we had with Mr. Gann. He wanted to create the authority, so then we can start talks, and then we can all come to the table. And I told him I would wholeheartedly support another big meeting like we had in Banks County, where he invited us all up, if we wanted to go ahead and have those pre-talks with Hartwell and Elbert County, Mr. Leverett and Mr. Powell, and Bo Hatchett and Stevens County group. And if everybody is a consensus, then we're in the same consensus with them to open those talks. I know Mark Perry was cautious about creating an authority up front prior to having those commitments, because once you create that authority, it don't just give you an opportunity to talk amongst yourself and work out details. You've already created an authority which could have an impact, depending on how that authority is structured, as to what you can and cannot do inside your county, because now you're in an authority with other counties, to where if we wanted to run a water line on Miles Road, we have to make sure that Jackson County, Franklin County, Hart County, Elbert County is in agreement with it. So that's why you gotta get the consensus together first before you create the authority.
I guess in my mind, I'm in this conversation is recognizing that Madison County is the hub, that regardless of where the water comes from, just gotta come through us. And that in my mind, it is time for us to be perhaps a little more proactive and become a leader, rather than be told by the other counties, no, we don't have anything left over for you. And if we're at the table first, perhaps we might be in a little bit better position to negotiate water rates or infrastructure for other counties, because ultimately, water's gonna come from our northeast and go down towards our southwest here to Jackson, Clark, Barrow counties. So if initiating the conversation is what it takes, then I would suggest we contact our representatives, being Alan Powell and Rob Leverett, and let's do that. And then, because at the end of the day, everything starts in the House of Representatives, not the Senate anyway. But I think we really, it would behoove us to be very proactive in this.
Well, with that being said, it was a very good conversation for about an hour and a half. Christine was there for a witness to that meeting. And that is exactly the point I made. Let's talk to Rob, let's talk to Alan, let's make sure that we're all pulling the wagon in the same direction. And we were assured, okay, we'll reach out to them, talk to them, I'll let you know how it goes, but y'all take a look at this and see what you think. That's where we were at. So.
Perhaps the confusion is at what point actual action in General Assembly is taken.
Right.
And I only have one point of reference to that, really, Mayor Creek Authority, but it was my understanding, obviously lots of communication had to happen, but once the General Assembly adopted the charter creating that authority, it was already known the reservoir would be built, and that charter defined each county's rights and duties with respect to that reservoir and all the details akin to that. Am I right about that?
Pretty much, but I think some additional work beforehand, again, to lay the groundwork.
Sure, I'm I'm just asking, does that require the General Assembly doesn't pass anything to do that groundwork?
No, but they can create a multi-jurisdictional authority, a planning authority, and that would allow the state or the EPA to say, hey, I can give you some grant funding. And if it's, say, 3 counties begin with some planning money, there can always be an end to that particular, it may not work out for somebody, and they realize through that planning process, oh, we don't need to be involved with this, or some other county may say, we'd like to be part of that. It's an evaluation of what moves forward.
Is is that actually creating an authority, or is that, creating maybe a study committee?
I think it's because of a multi-jurisdictional, being multi-jurisdictional.
Right.
For EPD to send money to that group, I think it has to be
Okay.
a governmental
Okay.
entity.
And then does that get amended later once plans become more final? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Like I say, I
I think it would
my
be
limited
safe to
knowledge.
say, after being a casual observer, what happened at Bear Creek, if we started today, if we passed a resolution tonight encouraging our representatives to research this and stating very clearly that we wanted to be a part of that program, it would be 15 to 20 years before there would be a drop of water come out of the pipe anywhere. So,
We're longer than that, but yeah.
you know, so, you know, here again, I would.
And I think at this point in time, it's a benign enough to, you know, in my opinion, I've said it in here before, is, you know, we ask our legislative body, and it's like, hey, we need some help for, we believe Madison County needs support from a long-term, you know, water supply services. And it's our understanding that state, EPD, they appreciate larger regional type developments. And, you know, we're supportive of that, and y'all are 3 of our legislative delegation. We expect y'all to move forward with something that can move forward with. And again, you know, if Hart County is concerned that they're gonna pump water all the way to Coweta County, you know, I can't stop that fear.
Right.
But again, as Commissioner Adams said, you know, day one until we start.
I think Franklin County, according to Franklin County was the only one that had a tie to Atlanta. Everybody else doesn't. Habersham County has a tie to Atlanta, everybody else does not. And to be truthful, again, I have reached out to Mr. Powell, and I have reached out to Mr. Leverett. So maybe we just want to reach out again.
Well, that's what this would be, in my mind, is a resolution to reach out to them and say.
We don't need a resolution to reach out to them. We can reach out to them with a formal document if you want.
Well, that's what I'm saying, the resolution is a document, I mean,
Statement.
yeah, statement, it just says, and then it becomes a record of the record.
So the resolution would be to create a multi-jurisdictional planning authority composed of certain counties. Would we put some definitions, or just sort of leave it there and let the General Assembly, your combination work it out?
Well, I don't know, a couple of you guys reach out to Rob and Alan and just ask them what their thoughts on this.
Well, you should send again, provided a draft letter. Why don't we?
Draft letter, he said amend it as
Okay,
needed.
to us.
And I said we would, but I would prefer him to find out his cohorts in the Capitol, would make sure they're behind it, because I was told they're not. I don't want to get into this in public.
They're our
If they represent us, if we say you're behind it, you're behind it.
He did say we could exclude a certain county because that was the hiccup. We said write it however we felt, however we saw fit. Am I correct, Christina? So we can do that. We'll write it up, send it out to you guys, and then I'll forward it on to Alan and Rob and back to Frank.
Well, do you want it to be from the whole board, or just from you? Because it's from the
Well,
whole
first we
board.
gotta get it drafted.
Right.
And then the board's gotta agree to it.
But they can't agree to it by email, like that.
No, that's right, we'd have to adopt it, but I wanna send out a rough draft showing what it says.
Can this be presented to us on Monday if we already have a rough draft? I know you got a lot to do, so.
But you're out of town too.
That's right.
This'll be an easy
I
document.
work for the board. You want it Monday, you can have it Monday.
Well, there you go.
Don't ask me nothing else, Denny.
Just wait a minute, when you get to the commissioners' comments.
All right. No, that's where we're at, statements from officers and commissioners, which I am. I'm on Terry, since Terry started that one. Any other statements from officers and commissioners?
Yes.
All right.
At the end of our master plan regarding leisure services for the county, Shelley made some comments regarding
that, the master plan and how we plan on implementing it. And I suggested at that time that much of what I'd read in the master plan and many of the issues that I'd seen were management level issues. This week, and I'm sure that you guys read the email about the injury that occurred at the basketball courts, at the outdoor basketball courts at the rec department. And there was some barter back and forth about, I told someone this, it needed to be repaired. It would take $500,000 to repair this. First, let me say that I thought the response was totally inappropriate. An effective manager for any department within the county requires an effective manager. You know, and this responding after the fact.
Mike, does this need to go to executive session?
Well, executive session would be to,
Discuss personnel matters?
well, except for personnel, if you're going to take, so if it's under the personnel exception, you have to take your evidence in open session, and then you can go into executive session to deliberate.
I'll just ask you. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, first of all, the intent here is not to reprimand or demand action regarding the director of the rec department. But I do believe, after review of the Leisure Services document, after the comment this week, and comment from the public, that we should carefully evaluate the programs that we offer through the rec department. We should carefully evaluate the hours that there are personnel available at the rec department. And we should clearly establish the hours that we believe the rec department should be open to the public. And I say that because I have visited there on multiple occasions, and there's simply no one present. And these are during normal working hours, and it would be my expectation that there would be someone there. It may not have to be the director of the department, but you ought to be able to find someone on the site. And I would like to see, number one, I'd love to see some corrective action plan on this thing with these basketball courts. And I'd like to know, we have provided a tool with our master plan thing. I'd like to know how we're going to implement it. And I'm not beating on the table or anything like that, but there has to be something done here to start pulling some of this together.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Hearing none. Urgent matters. Christina?
Yes, so Mike, you may want to help walk me through this. The planning and zoning public hearing last week was canceled, last Tuesday. There's been some discussion, and Mike obviously understands the law and what we have to do. What we're suggesting is not what we have to do, but there are 2 or 3 applications, I think, that have some opposition. So the P&Z staff has recommended and requested for the BOC to postpone and reschedule last week's planning and zoning public hearing, which is the BOC's February 3rd public hearing. All of those applications be moved to and stated for the planning and zoning February public hearing and the beginning of March BOC public hearing. And I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well, I put those dates in all that piece of paper for you.
And the issue is trying to get these heard as quickly as possible. If you re-advertise with all of the requirements, they'd be on the March, April cycle. But if we go through, keep these on the agenda for next week, people who want to speak will be there. You vote to postpone the hearings to these dates that Christina's presented, then we don't have to re-advertise because we did it at the scheduled time for the hearing.
So I would like to take it a step further and ask for the board to make a motion to postpone all these dates tonight. That way it allows staff to call all those applicants and let them know that those hearings have been postponed.
The thing is, I think they have to take their action at the scheduled hearing.
Well, that's what me and Tracy had talked about too, that they would have to vote again during the public hearing, that they would have to open the public hearing, if anyone came to speak, allow them, and the board would vote to.
No, I don't think you even have to open the public hearing. Okay. I just think you would have to take your vote at the time scheduled for the public hearing, which is 6 o'clock next week.
Okay.
So in your opinion, the weather closure doesn't do away with the 2 hearing requirements that we have in ordinance?
Well, and that's a good question, and I talked about that with the lawyer representing the cell tower company on the special use permit. He was not comfortable. I mean, there are different interpretations of that. The law is not clear in Georgia. He was not comfortable not having both hearings. He was not comfortable with this procedure. I think that's obviously safer, and if we're going to do it for one, we might as well do it for all 6.
This would require re-advertising.
This actually would not require re-advertising because you would vote next week. Those people will be here because based on the first advertisement, they'll need to come back at the new times you set next week. Now, to get to Christina's point, I don't know that there's any harm in a vote tonight so long as you vote again next week, but we definitely have to do it next week with people.
Yeah.
All the
legalese will be next Monday.
You just want to know if there's consensus that we agreed to.
I want Tracy to be able to tell the applicants that the board voted to postpone them.
And this is a question in my ignorance I've got to ask. If we contact the applicant, if someone complained or had negative comments, do we contact them also so that they would have the opportunity to either be here or at the later date, or how does that work?
Right, yeah.
Because there's the public hearings become convoluted if we only tell one side.
Well, I don't think you can deviate. I mean, really, the only vote that matters is the one you take next week at the time for the hearing. If I were an applicant or an objector, I wouldn't care what you did tonight. I would show up next week because you might have changed your mind.
Okay.
Yes. And that's how we'll leave it.
Okay.
Just as a courtesy to everybody, would it not be appropriate to go ahead and re-advertise anyway, but not at the applicant's cost?
I thought about that, and I think that's a good idea. I think the issue there is probably the cost. We're not going to be charging these applicants a new fee, so the county would be eating that cost of re-advertising. But assuming the county's willing to do that, I think that's a great idea.
So if you go on our website, it would have to be advertised with legal organs, and we have to get somebody from P&Z to make sure the dates are changed on the property side.
Yes, sir, that's right too. Yeah.
But I would, if we need to, I'd put that in the form of motion for just the county to cover the cost of re-advertising those.
Right. And they still won't, the first one will still be within less than 15 days, but that's okay so long as you vote again next week to do this in front of whoever shows up.
That's the most fair thing to do.
Yes, sir. That's right.
That's at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So you want to re-advertise, cover the cost of advertisement, update signage, and contact all the surrounding property owners of the new. Okay.
Just do everything just like it was the first time around.
Okay.
And that makes it that the only difference is we still won't be hitting that 15-day minimum, and that's why y'all have to do it again next week.
Yeah.
That'll make up for that. Yeah.
Courtesy. Right. Great. All right.
Just that, exactly.
I have a motion by Commissioner Chandler. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Adams. Any discussion on this one, gentlemen? Hearing none. Commissioner Chandler?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. we'll get Tracy to take care of this tomorrow. I will. Executive session to discuss real estate acquisition, personal matters, potential litigation, sir.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Doster.
Move adjourned.
Gentlemen, go to work. Wasn't quite 2 hours, but it ain't, eat every bit of it anyway.
All of them, that's exactly right.
Yeah, but that's good. Okay, we talked. Sorry.
Derek and Tracy Beck.
Good to see you. Had a great time.
You enjoyed the program.
Yeah, man.
Great job.
You brought it up. I may eventually meet you.
So, my mom, Tracy Brown,